Welcome back to Papers, Please. One thing I like about collecting passports is that old passports often tell a human story, instead of boring and dry history lessons in our textbooks. For example, if you Google Franco, Spain's notorious dictator who won the Spanish Civil War, you can probably find a dozen documentaries telling you over and over again about who Franco was, where he came from, and how he rose to power. However, if you want to know how people lived under Franco's dictatorship, you will not be able to find much. That's why I love this old Spanish passport from 1946, because this passport allows us to see under what condition the ordinary people were living and how Franco's administration affected the way they travel. The passport is not in its best shape. As you can see, it has suffered greatly from water damage, as if the passport was rescued from a shipwreck. The good thing is that the embroidering still hold up. The coat of arms is different than the Spanish coat of arms used today, although a lot of the elements are the same. The contemporary one is much simplified. There is a note on the inside front cover. If I'm reading this correctly, it's emphasizing that this passport can only be used for international travel and not domestically. This is rather bizarre because we thought passports are supposed to be a valid ID anywhere, right? On the right, the passport fee stamp shows that this passport only cost 7.5 pesetas. And according to this little website I found on the internet, that's equal to 57 cents US, which is insanely cheap. In comparison, this transatlantic boat ticket, which comes with the passport, charges $371 for one-way fare from Bilbao to New York City. I wonder how much is that in today's money.
NANI?
Ay, Dios mío. I'll stay with economy class plane ticket, thank you. Another thing you notice is that this passport is bilingual in Spanish and French because French was the international language back then. And I love the Spanish bureaucracy on his passport. When it comes to the facial description part, they just write, "See the photo." But how do I tell the eye color from a black and white photo? Page 4, it says the passport is valid for Portugal, North America, and Mexico. Again, this is baffling because why only 3 places and not anywhere else? I understand Mexico and North America because one is the destination and the other is the transit station, but the owner of this passport was not going to Portugal and has never been to Portugal, so why put it there? Down a little bit, the reason for travel, because obviously you need to justify yourself in order to get a passport in Franco's Spain. Here the reason says to return to habitual residence. I assume that means the owner of the passport lives in Mexico and is trying to return. So this is what I've been saying, devil's in the details with old passports. And here it tells us that Franco's fascist regime had heavy restrictions on border control. That's not a mere speculation, by the way. We'll see more evidence of this in the next couple of pages. Page 5 has some fingerprints, and before you say anything, no, this is not because of Franco. It has been a traditional feature on the Spanish passport since 1932. Next to the fingerprints are some remarks basically saying that the photos and fingerprints are in order. Page 6 through 8 are renew pages, nothing to see. Alright, page 9. Now this is interesting. This huge stamp says that the holder of this passport is only authorized to leave Spain once, for the purpose declared, which is to go back to Mexico, within 30 days from the 24th of January 1947, and they can only return using this passport in the next 60 days. Needless to say, this is a very strict requirement. Also, it's really interesting that they put it here in the visa section, making this a visa to leave your own country. Next paragraph, it says for an individual to leave Spain, they must present this passport as well as their ration cards. Oh yes, the good old ration cards.
Without the coupon books, you could not buy certain items like sugar, meat, tires, or gasoline.
You see, during and after the Second World War, many European nations implemented rationing due to food shortages. but rationing was most severe in the post-Civil War Spain in the 1940s, where the allowance was not enough to cover the basic nutrition needs of the people. At the same time, the Franco dictatorship wiped out the savings of Spain's middle class by withdrawing millions of pesetas from circulation and cancelling literally tons of banknotes. This, on top of rationing, has caused a thriving black market to form. Not that kind, the other kind. For example, the official price for a kilogram of sugar was 1.9 pesetas, but almost nobody could get it at that price. You could only get it on a black market, where the price was 10 to 20-fold. As a result, diseases related to starvation and poverty started spreading. Liver disease, tuberculosis, influenza, typhoid fever, malaria, whatever you can think of. In some parts of Spain, the infant mortality rate reached a whopping 35% due to malnutrition in 1942. The country was not in its best economic shape. Well, just like the Spain we know nowadays, I guess. To make matters worse, most people cannot even go elsewhere to seek better opportunities. Page 11 and 12 give you a good idea about just how troublesome it was back then to get out of Spain. Francisco, the holder of this passport, had to pass through the immigration office, get a stamp, go through the maritime health checks, get a stamp, satisfy the police department, get a stamp, and clear the customs, get a stamp. I mean, it certainly seems pretty complicated, right? And finally, after 20 days on the sea, Francisco reached New York City. Now, from this point forward, there's no other stamps, nothing. So I have to conclude that Francisco did not go to Mexico, and he did not go back to Spain either. Chances are he stayed in the United States for the rest of his life. And he wouldn't be the first Hispanic to do so, right?
From Central America attempted to storm the U.S. border, desperate to reach U.S. soil.
In fact, during the period between late 19th and early 20th century, about 5 million Spaniards went to the Americas. Most of them went to South America, but also a significant number went to the United States. On the last 2 pages, there are some regulations I find pretty interesting. It says Spaniards traveling abroad must register themselves to the closest consulate, legation, or embassy within 8 days of arrival. Otherwise, they'll lose their protection and rights and whatnot. This is just more rules for a Spanish person to travel overseas during the Franco period. Whether it was Franco who introduced these measures, I don't know, but I think it's fair to say that getting out of the country was nearly impossible for ordinary people. If there are more things you'd like to know about this passport, comment below. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and share. If you have a passport that you want me to take a look at, let me know. Until next time.